Hey, it's Laura.
It's Amanda.
And we are Moms on a Mission,
where faith, motherhood, and purpose come together.
We're not just raising children, we're raising disciples, striving to make an eternal impact in our homes and beyond.
Here, we choose grace over guilt, progress over perfection, and God's truth over the world's noise.
Together, we'll encourage, uplift, and equip one another to walk boldly in our calling as mothers on a mission.
So, grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and let's dive into this journey of faith-filled motherhood, one step, one prayer, and one mission at a time. Welcome back to Moms on a Mission. This is episode 15, and we have something new going on today.
Yes, we do.
Well, we have a lot of new things going on today, actually. First thing is, we are on video.
Yes, we are.
Woohoo! We are so excited about that. We have been talking about doing video for the last, since we started this podcast, really. And so we're kind of moving on into that. We think that that helps us connect with people better. And, just to kind of see that, this is nothing fancy. It is not,
this is just us.
It's just us talking and just really trying to connect with other women, other mamas, and everybody else out there that, can connect and, kind of see where we're coming from.
Yep.
The other thing is that we have going on is that there is some tree work being done outside. And we've already missed 2 weeks. We're not missing another week of Moms on a Mission. So we are going to record straight through that tree work. So you might hear some crazies outside, some buzzing and stuff like that, but that's okay. We're just going to keep on recording.
Yep. And if it's not the tree work that you hear in the background, it might be our kids.
Yes, actually. Yes, I've seen several men walking around. There's 4 kids running around somewhere. So yeah, but that's all right. We're going to record anyway.
Yes, we are. It looks like a zoo outside, but that's all right.
It's called progress.
Yes.
Yep.
And this all literally popped up since we planned to do this.
Yeah, like within a matter of hours. So that's okay. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep on going. So forgive us if you hear some background noise.
That's right.
So, all right. So today's episode of Moms on a Mission is my topic of one of my favorite things. It's one of my passions, and it is kids and money. So when we talk about kids and money, if you guys have listened to this show at all, if you know me at all, you know that I write a newsletter called Wealthy Kids Academy. I've been working on a book, which has turned into kind of a curriculum of kind of laying the foundation for a healthy, wealthy financial future for our kids. How do we do it without making them obsessed with money? How do we do it without putting a silver spoon in their mouth? How do we do it if we don't know about money?
Correct, which is a big one.
And so we want to kind of dig into that topic. How, as moms, do we introduce money, teach our kids about money, but not make them obsessed, not make it too much, and just do it well and set them up nicely for the future?
Yes.
So our guilt factor today would be, how do we set our kids up without spoiling them, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to spin it. Just that we're raising kingdom stewards. And while the goal is to, train them up and to be financially responsible, it starts with us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we've got to model it well if they even have a shot to do it well themselves.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's get into this, but let's start with a prayer as always. So I always wing my prayers. You guys will get to see that now that we're on video.
That's my fave.
So here we go. Lord, we just come to you today and ask you to bless us, bless those that are listening to our podcast. Lord, we're just so very grateful for this time that we have and for the people that we have listening to us and supporting us. Lord, just please guide our words. Let your words flow through us today. Let us be a blessing to others. And please continue to shroud us and protect us in our community, our country, and our leaders. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. That was wonderful.
Thanks. All right. So today's topic of kids and money. So I think I always kind of like to start out with this topic of saying that money is not the root of evil. According to the Bible, it's the love of money that
Correct.
is the root of evil. And when I started kind of getting into Wealthy Kids Academy and writing those newsletters and things like that, I had people that kind of blow me off and say, they'll figure it out, or I'm going to let them do that on their own. It'll be better for them. And my response to that is that, and kind of people worrying about, how do we introduce our kids without them to money, without them being obsessed over it, or, that being the core of things that we're teaching them. Well, to me, I know from experience that money was almost an obsession for me for a really long time because I never felt like I had enough of it.
Right.
And I still, I struggle with this hardcore. I love business. I love entrepreneurship. I love investing, finance. I love talking about that stuff, thinking about how a business idea comes across. I'm like, oh, I could do that. That sounds interesting.
Do you need another LLC?
Yeah. That is something that it's just in me. I like finance. I love that kind of stuff. So, but I have found that throughout my life, I have been very obsessed with money because I didn't feel like I had enough of it. I didn't know how to manage it. It was always an issue. And so I wanted something different for my kids. I wanted them to feel like money wasn't a problem. Not that they, I have plenty of it. It's not that. It's just, I get money. I'm not scared of it. And I know how to manage it.
Right.
And then on top of that, I know how to make it. If I need more, it's okay. I know how to go out and make more of it without it being
feeling like such a burden.
I'm not going to make the bills. I can't do this. I feel like I never have enough. We're paycheck to paycheck. We make a couple $100,000 a year, but it's still not enough. I wanted them to feel like, no, I get it. I understand it. I know how to manage it. When it comes to me, I know exactly what to do with it. I wanted there to be an ease there. It's not that I want to put a silver spoon in my kid's mouth. I don't know that we plan on leaving our kids any money. It's not about inheritance. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about understanding and comfort and management.
Managing it well.
Yeah.
Because Pastor Scott said the other day in our message on Sunday that, Jesus isn't anti-money. He isn't anti-stuff.
No.
He just doesn't want those things. He doesn't mind if you have those things. He just doesn't want those things to have you.
Yes. I know. I loved how he put that.
And I did too, because I just think that there's so much truth in that. Even from where we're trying to come from most often is a guilt factor.
Yeah.
Do we feel guilty about having stuff? Do we feel guilty about having money?
Right.
Not if you manage it well. Mm-hmm. And, if you're generous and teaching your kids what to do with it appropriately, then having it, and I would even go so far as to say having a lot of it, as long as you steward it well.
Absolutely.
I don't think you should feel guilty about that.
So in one of my newsletters, the thing, one of the things that I advise, you to have a conversation with your kids about is what do you, and we talked about this at church on Sunday, kind of creating a vision. If your kids are old enough, and I'm talking pretty young, we're talking, 8, 10, 12, depending on their maturity level.
Elementary school aged.
Yeah, for sure. What do you see yourself doing? What do you see your life as? If you had your dream life, what does it look like? Well, a lot of kids will, tell you they want a mansion or they want a Lamborghini and instead of whatever. I feel like it's great to be like, okay, how?
Yeah. How do you plan on obtaining those things?
Yeah. How are you going to get there? And on top of that, okay, why? Why do you want the big house? It's a lot to take care of.
It sure is.
Why do you want the Lamborghini? And they'll start, that kind of just opens doors. Every kid is going to have a different answer. But the thing that the why gets it kind of going as to it's not just going to fall in your lap. And then the conversation about, how is, it's not just going to fall in your lap. But then the why is, okay, that's great. and we can strive for that. And that can be a thing. You know, you can have big houses you can handle. You can have, you know, the cars or whatever. But let's take it a step further. What if you had all those things? And what if you had the money and you had the lifestyle? Who are the people that you think you could help the most? Right. What if you could create something that helped the most people? What would you do?
Yeah.
Who would you help? You know, and then there's a lot of conversation around that of like, what do you want to do to be helpful? Well, who's maybe a group of people that you think you could touch their lives? Is it they want to pour it into their church? You know, do they love their kid ministry or their, you know, teenage pastor and all the things that he does? Or the other day, we were traveling. We went to Kentucky for an archery tournament. It was a couple months ago. And right before we left, we had lunch in this really awesome downtown area of Kentucky in Louisville. And right around 12, we got there right as soon as the doors opened for all these restaurants. It's like all these celebrity restaurants. And, you know, it's just a cool downtown area. So we go in, the doors had just opened. We had to get on the road pretty quickly. Well, like it's probably 12. By 12:15, the homeless community is coming out in droves. I mean, a bunch of them are starting to fill the streets. And they're not just hanging out. They're like walking up and down. You can tell this is a daily ritual, especially in season, I guess, of, you know, when it's springtime, summertime, people are out and about. And they are just walking, like kind of, I guess, in, you know, it's lunchtime. Maybe somebody's going to hand them a leftover. Maybe somebody's going to hand them a sandwich. Maybe somebody's going to hand them some cash. And you could tell that was where they were at. And I thought, it didn't dawn on me at the time. But later on our way home, Abel and I were talking about it. And he's like, he was like, you know, did you notice all of those people? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. You know, that's really tough. I mean, some of them are in really rough shape. They're doing weird things. You know, there's some mental stuff there. There's all these things. But the overall thing was there something we could have done? Like, what if we would have gone into the restaurant and been like, here's $500. Feed as many of these people out here as you can.
Right.
How cool would it be to be able to do that? Like, you know, just no big deal. $500, here you go. Make as many barbecue sandwiches as you can and hand them out. You know, or
that'd be amazing.
You know, and like just kind of planting those seeds for kids, and on that side of wealth is where I think there's a lot of heart and a lot of importance. And so, you know, kids kind of go over to that side of like, oh, I want a mansion, I want a Lambo, they tend to do that, especially when they're really young. But I think you can turn the conversation and make it about, it's okay to have wealth. Money's not evil. It's the love of it and the selfishness of it that can be a root of bad things. So I just thought it was just so neat to kind of talk through those conversations with him and see where his mind went of, you know, and then we started talking about like YouTubers like Mr. Beast. How did he get so popular? Giving away everything.
Yep. Yep. And it's interesting that you said the mansion and the Lambo specifically, because other conversations that have stemmed from us as well with those, because, you know, same, Maddox has said remarks like that. Mm-hmm. And I've said, well, you know, it's really expensive to heat and cool a really large house, yes. Right? So like
a lot of dust in those homes.
It's a lot of maintenance. It's not just this mansion that maintains itself. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a lot of work.
Yep.
And same with, you know, I really love sports cars. I'm like, you know, the insurance on sports cars is like really expensive.
Yep.
So just these other things that lead into, you know, monetary conversations of it's not just what you see on the surface level.
Right.
You know, there's more to it than this. And I love that you brought up the homeless thing, because when we were in small group earlier in the semester, I think I referenced this, our pastor gave every couple in the group a topic that we had to speak on.
Yep.
And they were just given at random. And we had to prepare basically a sermon and preach it to our fellow people in our small group for, you know, 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
and ours was money. And which I thought was great, having teamed up with you here and knowing more, learning more about Wealthy Kids Academy, just like your drive and passion for kids and money and learning it and teaching it, being a great example. And so when we did ours, we put our sermon together based on the 9 fruits of the Spirit in regard to money.
Yeah.
And so I actually have my notes from when I put it together.
Oh, awesome.
And one of them, actually the very first one, is love. And we spun it from a generosity and compassion perspective.
Yep.
And instead of using money selfishly, love calls us to give generously to those in need. Money should serve people. People should not serve money. And the question that I posed to our group was, what about homeless people asking for money? And if the Holy Spirit is tugging at you, you should do it and be obedient. You don't help with strings attached. It's not our decision. It's God's, that we're supposed to be a joyful giver. And you're not giving money that you miss.
Yeah.
It's usually something extra, or like, again, if you're living paycheck to paycheck or struggling, that obviously may be more of a challenge for you.
Right.
If you've got some, in abundance and you give it away and you're not going to miss it, but you're doing something good with it, I think that's important.
Yeah.
And one of the most impactful lessons that I have learned is that it's not your fault to be born into what you have, but it is your fault if you don't do something about it and help with somebody else's struggle.
Ooh, I love that. So in my studies of doing all this Wealthy Kids stuff, there is a statistic that says that children who are born into wealth, typically like 90%, in the 90% range, that wealth is gone in 2 generations.
Wow.
Because they have it, but they don't necessarily know how to manage it, because it's more given to them instead of shown and earned. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's absolutely true. And back to the generosity part of it, the day prior to us, same trip that we went on, the day prior, we were walking around downtown and this gentleman approached us, and he was a homeless man, and he said, would you buy me some lunch? And I said, sure. And I thought he wanted cash, and he was like, I like to go to Subway over there. And I said, well, I'll take you to Subway. So we walked together to Subway. I didn't have cash anyway. I couldn't have given it to him if I had it, but I said a little prayer and me and Abel walked with this gentleman over to the Subway, and he ordered like as much as he could, which was fine. And then I got to pray with him, and I got to put my hands on him, and I got to pray with him. And I had never, the opportunity hadn't arisen in my mind to like really, most of the time, like, I'm so sorry, I don't have any cash. That's true. I don't typically carry cash.
Very rarely.
And so I can't just hand somebody something, but to be able to walk over there and to do that, and for it to be no skin off my back, but then to be able to pray with him. I don't know if he was a man of faith or not, but it was just a neat experience. And I mean, it made me so nervous though, because I had my kid with me,
Sure,
I'm not a very tall woman or a big woman.
Me neither.
But it was cool. And I think, being able to just say yes when the opportunity arises, instead of having to be like, I can't, or I don't feel like I can.
Right.
What a huge blessing. And it doesn't take a ton of money to do that, but we have to know how to manage money when it comes to us. And we have to know that is part of having money to me, because like Pastor said on Sunday, money is the money that we get and the blessings that we have. Those are God's. We're managers and stewards of those things. And so if we, I think it's important to say, yes, we need income and this is what we do with money, but this is the reason why we're blessed with money. And then when we can handle that and God pours more on us, then we need to figure out ways that we can continue to be a blessing to others around us. And so again, just to kind of go back, it's not teaching kids about money and talking to them is not about, the obsession of money and the,
right.
Let's make you wealthy and rich. And, it's not that. It's more of like, it should not be a pain in your side. This should be something you can pour out and help and be helpful with others. And it's going to be a huge blessing for you too, in your life. So, and so as I mentioned, there are some things that I talk about in the newsletter that are very, very basic things. Like, what do you do with money when it comes to you? How do we avoid the paycheck to paycheck kind of thing? I did not figure this out until I was close to 30. And I wanted my kids to figure it out earlier.
Yeah. Are you talking about tithing?
Well, it's actually, for me, it's a very set system. So as children, this has to change a little bit when we're adults, maybe. But as children, any money that comes to the kids, whether it's money they earned or whether it's money that they were given, maybe it was birthday, Christmas, whatever.
Sure.
They save half of it. Why? Yes, half is a lot. Why do they have to save half of it? Because they don't need money.
Right.
I do give them everything that they need. They are more than provided for. So
we still got them covered for now.
Totally. Like way more than covered.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't think, yes, they don't like to save half of it, but that's how we do it because I think that saving half of it is important. They don't need money. So if they want to go and spend it on V-Bucks, well, they're just going to have to
Legos.
wait. I wish mine wanted to spend it on Legos. All they want to spend it on right now is V-Bucks. Now, I will say, like recently, the boys had birthdays and they've gotten some cool gifts that I'm hoping will help branch them out from the V-Buck thing. Yep. But right now, they want V-Bucks, which kills my heart.
Because it's like it's there and then it's gone.
Yes, it means it's nothing. It is nothing. It's nothing you can even touch in your hands. If you don't know what V-Bucks are, it's Fortnite money. Way to go, Fortnite, because you guys are doing amazing. Like, way to go. And so that's what they want. And so when they want to spend their money, I'm like, no. I try really hard. I try to let them spend their money that is spending money on what they want. But any money that comes to them, they save half of it. They also put 10% into a giving account. If you can't see off screen, there's a little kiddo that has poked his head in.
It's my baby.
Anyway, so they save half and they have to put 10% aside for giving. No questions asked. Once we go from there, if they have something they want to save for, if they have, something extra that they're wanting to kind of put money away for, maybe a car fund, things like that, that's fine. We can split that money even further, but we save half and then we give half, they get to spend the rest.
That's what exactly that I have in my notes here is that tithing and generosity starts early.
Yes.
Create a give, save, spend system. Yep. Give, save, spend. And one of the things that I had written off to the side was it was mentioned in a podcast that I listened to specifically about tithing. And it was done, in a comedic fashion. But when the guy was speaking, he was like, you guys all know, right, that tithing just means that you're not stealing.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's not really wrong.
Yeah.
You're just returning the first 10% anyways. And I have heard it for many years at this point. God can do more with your 90% than you can do with your 100%.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And if you haven't given it a shot yourself, you're really missing out because that is true.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally true.
Very true.
But also, when you're teaching the kids, and you're telling them, okay, this is what we do with money, that these are not questionables. They're not, maybe this time we won't. No. This is what we do with it. And so when they get older and they have maybe a little side business or, whatever the case may be, there is no confusion to them as to what they do with this money.
Right.
We give, we save, then we spend. Period.
These are our hard and fast rules. And I love what you're saying in that we establish these things early, because I feel like this can spill over into even further principles of their life. Like, you know, when we get with our buddies at whatever, 16, 18, you know, we're not going to drink underage, but that is something that we've already decided and established a long time ago.
Right.
So when you get put into the situation, your decision's already been made.
Yeah.
You just have to actually see it out in that moment.
Right.
And so I think the same thing with the money. It's like these are hard and fast rules. These are our non-negotiables, so that when they get their first, whatever, say, you know, $1,000 earning for whatever they do, it's not like you said, well, maybe this time I'll do X, Y, and Z. No, our routine is already established.
Yeah. And it's not they don't really have to make that decision because it's already there. It's a habit. I'm sure, every time, the thought crosses your mind like, oh, that would be nice, but at the same time, it's, and then when we get older, it's automated.
Yes.
Like if you already know that's what you need to do with your money, that goes in your account and it gets split 3 ways.
You don't even have to think about it.
No. And, as you get older, saving 50% of your income, if you set your life up like that, that is amazing. Because if you have that in your mind and okay, I just got this job or I'm, starting this business, but I can only spend half of that money. Well, that's going to affect where you may buy your first place or rent your first apartment. It's going to affect the kind of car you get, all that stuff. But even so, if you're not saving, you can't save 50% of your income as an adult, okay, fine. But you still have this habit set, that you have to save part of it. 20% would be great. More than that would be great. If it has to be less, well, it has to be less. But that these are the buckets I have to fill.
Yes.
And there's no question about that. It's not of like, when I was figuring money out, like I said, I was close to 30. I was like, I didn't know. I was like, I had a paycheck come in and I knew I had expenses. And so I paid those expenses. Right. That was it. And then I had this money to spend. It never crossed my mind. That's part of if you read any of my stuff, I've been working since I was 14. And then when I was in my late 20s, I'm like, I've been working since I was 14.
Yeah, where's it at?
Why don't I have any money? Well, I don't have any money because I never put any money away.
Yeah.
And it was simple as that. Simple as that. There was no, I couldn't tell you every place I spent it. It didn't matter. It was just because I wasn't putting any away, so I never had any extra. And that wasn't because I was trying to be stupid about it.
No, and I can match you in that. And I mean, exactly. I started working at 14 as well. And you'll love this. The very first thing that I did was either umpire t-ball games.
Yeah.
Or drag baseball fields preparation for the next game.
Nice.
And of course, 14-year-old me, that was the greatest thing in the whole wide world. Mm-hmm. And still, looking back now, I didn't have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you at 14 years old, $25
oh yeah,
for a 1-hour t-ball game was incredible money.
Yeah.
And I did nothing but probably spend it on, other sports stuff.
Stand.
Yeah.
That's what my kids want to do. Like somebody hands them a little cash, they can't, it's like, oh, they want to spend it so bad. They'll buy stuff just because they're like, well, I could afford that. You're like, you don't even like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. But I can buy it.
But I got the money for it. Yep.
Yes. So that, and like I said, when money was coming in, I was like, okay, I have to pay my expenses and then I have this left and I spent it. The thing, again, another kind of principle to teach is that you don't pay your expenses first. You pay yourself first and then you pay your expenses. And I don't care if you're starting now as an adult and you're trying to get your finances in order or you're teaching your 5-year-old. You pay yourself first and then you pay your expenses.
Yep.
God will help provide for the things that you need. He will help take care of the other things. There's debt relief, there's consolidation, there's refis, there's all these kind of things that can help. But you have to start doing your savings first. You have to tithe, pay yourself first, and then you spend. And spending is part of your expenses.
It's part of your expenses, but I do feel like it's last.
It has to be last
on the totem pole.
Once you start doing that too, things will turn around.
Absolutely.
And it won't be such a huge problem or issue or pain point. It doesn't. God helps take care of it. He helps provide for it. And you start learning and seeing, what you actually need. You start paying attention to the money. And when you have, you start putting a little bit of money away for yourself, it starts to add up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then you have a little bit of a cuttion,
which is nice.
Yes, absolutely. And that doesn't mean, investing is great, but that doesn't mean you have to, start putting money in the stock market immediately or anything. Just putting some money aside for yourself is amazing.
Game changer.
Yeah, totally, totally amazing. Then you are not at everyone else's mercy.
Correct.
And it's a great thing. And so that's, those very basic principles is what I think teaching kids about money is all about. It's what do we do with money when it comes in? Tithing and paying ourselves first is not an option. It's a must. And, and splitting money into buckets, that is a must. And then at the end of the day, not only do we want them to have a vision for what they want their lives to look like, but who can they help and what other lives can they touch with the money that they plan to have and that they want to have?
Yes.
Then it makes it worth something. That mansion, if you're going to, make sure that every family member of yours is taken care of financially and has a place to stay when they need it, perfect. Yep. Awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, because I've really tried to instill in my boys, not with just my words, but also with leading by example, is that we are building longer tables, not higher fences.
Love that.
And that is it's just one of my, I don't want to call it a pet peeve, but it's just one of like my core principles that's a non-negotiable. I love helping others. And I feel like if they see me do that, then surely they will follow suit.
Yeah.
And because I have in my notes too here that, modeling matters more than lecturing. And I think you would agree with me that children learn more by what we do than what we say. And so one of the catchphrases or whatever that I like to reference is more is caught than taught.
Ooh, I like that.
And it's true.
Yeah.
So we can tell them whatever we want to tell them, or we can even say the words that we feel like they need to hear. But if we're not doing it, they're not going to follow.
Yeah, no.
I can give them all the advice in the world, but if I've got to be an example worth following.
Yeah.
So that way they know that I'm not just, I'm actually doing what I say and saying what I do to them to try and be a good steward of our finances, our money, and someone that, because again, we're raising somebody else's husband.
Yeah.
And so one of these days, our boys are going to sit down with their wives and they're going to have to do taxes. They're going to have to budget. They are surely by the time that they're married, we've already established that we're on the same page with our beliefs.
Right.
But, tithing is going to have to be a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And those are just things that if I'm not doing them, they're not going to do them.
No. And a good way to teach that too, I'm pretty big on honesty. I've told you guys several times, like if it's, when I tell my kids stuff, sometimes I go a little too far, but I have shown them our money. Like, this is what it costs to have this life, like this is what a mortgage looks like. We have to pay insurance and we have to pay, we don't have, praise God, we don't have a car payment at the moment, but any, car insurance and all these things. I'm open with them about that. I'm like, you guys have no clue how much stuff costs. And we talk about those things. We can talk about that in Walmart all day long. They do not care. But what's funny is that if can I have this? Can I have it, please? Yeah. Sure. You buy it. They're like,
incoming plug for green light card.
Yeah. I'm like,
but that does change their attitude.
Oh, it totally changes it.
I have to use my money?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. When it's my money, they will ask for it all day long. I'm like, okay, you buy it. And they're like,
when it's their money, they think twice.
Oh yeah, for sure. So,
but I've done that too, especially with Maddox, just because he's the older. We'll check out wherever, Aldi, Walmart, after getting groceries, and it'll be $400. Mm-hmm. And Maddox will be like, Mom, you just spent $400 on groceries?
Yeah.
And he knows my response is the same every time. Said, yeah, baby, it's expensive to be alive.
Yep.
And that's what I tell him. Yeah. And it is.
It is.
And then, he sees the $400 on the screen. But what I will then show him is I'll open up my American Express app on my phone and go, it was $400 there, but it's cost us, $2,000, here so far this year.
Right.
We've made multiple trips. This is how much we've spent in groceries so far this year.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I usually have them look at the cart. We'll play the game before we check out. How much do you think this cart is worth? Mm-hmm. And then when we check out, and it's funny because they know the price difference between stores. So Aldi's usually our first hit. So they'll know, they'll be like, oh, I think it's, $200 cart. And then they're like, this would have been a $300 cart somewhere
Absolutely.
else. And it's cool to see that they truly can look at things and know, this is probably going to cost around this amount of money. But that takes a lot of preface, mm-hmm. Hey, you guys need to pay attention to what this stuff costs. Letting them check things out at the grocery store, that alone lets them see that price tick up, up, up.
Yep, letting Maddox pump the gas.
Oh, yeah.
Look how much gas costs, you know, to drive you guys around here, there, and yonder. And
yeah, you and I drive Suburbans.
Yeah, so it's costly.
Abel's always like, oh,
yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But it is a good lesson because then it's because Maddox has more recently, I would say, okay, well, if you go to the store and you buy these things, and again, we never have cash. So I am a big Apple Pay user.
Yeah.
And American Express because I like the Amazon points.
Yes.
But we'll check out wherever we're at. And he's like, well, how does it get paid beyond this?
Oh, Lord, yes.
And I'm like, well, this is why we sell houses. Mm-hmm. This is why we own a roofing company, mm-hmm. because those jobs produce income. And then that income, once split, mm-hmm. turns around and pays off, this grocery trip, this gas bill.
If you think that your kids understand how a credit card works, a debit card works, and insurance works, you are dead wrong. Yep. They don't.
They have no idea.
They do not. And if you think your 20-year-old understands it, you're probably wrong. Your 25-year-old, hopefully, but it's a very big chance that they don't. And so this is a huge problem for people because you've seen, it's all over TikTok. These young, they're in their 20s and she's like, what does that mean? And she's looking at the American Express bill and she's like, that's your bill. You have to pay that. She's like, I already paid it when I swiped the card. And she's like, no.
That's not how that works. Yeah. Because he did ask, he said, is there, is this just limitless?
Right.
And I'm like, look, I've got, 4 credit cards, I think. And I'm like, this one has this amount, this one has this amount, mm-hmm. Well, why?
Right.
Well, because I've had this one the longest.
Yeah.
So my credit line is the largest. Mm-hmm. This one I've had for the shortest amount of time. And I'm like, some of these I just have, for whatever the reason is, a small credit line here. Because before I knew about a green light card, I thought, well, when Maddox gets old enough, this is my lowest limit credit card, so this is the one that I'll add him to so that he can go use it and start establishing his credit.
Right.
Well, now, green light card, again, greatest thing in the whole wide world for your kids. And I just use them sparingly here and there just to, I guess, maintain my credit score and just have them at less than 10% usage.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother conversation of not maxing them out as soon as you get them.
Yeah.
And there's just, I think, so many different aspects of finances, credit versus cash, versus whatever the next thing is, that they just you're right. They have no idea.
They don't. So you mentioned two like pro tips in there. Number one, you can start building credit for your kids, even if they are very small, simply by adding them as a user on your credit card account, which is wonderful because it gets their name in the system without obligating them. Don't hand them over the card.
Nope.
You just like, one great thing you can do is use them or put their name on there as a user, like on your Amex. Then use that Amex to fill up your gas every time or whatever. And then you immediately pay it off. That starts building credit in their name. The other thing that you mentioned was the green light card, which a lot of people I know use the green light card. But if you don't, it's a wonderful thing. We are not sponsored yet by Greenlight.
We would like to be.
Yes, we would love it. But Greenlight card is it's an amazing app. They have debit cards connected. And so it's a great way to teach your kids about money because you can put in there several different accounts. So you can put in like we have a saving, giving, and spending accounts. So when the kids put money in there, we split it up every way. Yeah. Then we also have an automated deposit that happens every week for each kid. And then that also gets split. So we're saving for them, but then they also get to see how much money they have, different things like that. And then it has a whole stock side of things. It's got a game that teaches them about stock, but they can also purchase their own stocks with their own money, which is amazing when you get to that point.
Yep.
And so that's a really great tool that you can use. Those are debit cards. They're not credit cards, but it teaches them. I mean, there's so many lessons to be learned there in that one app.
And it was amazing because last weekend, for the very first time, Maddox went with one of his buddies down to Hampton, and he went to his first NASCAR race.
Cool.
And which, tugged on my mama heart a little bit because that's the first time they ever went and did anything like that. But he went and he was able to take his green light card because I've never been to a NASCAR race, but I thought, well, what if this is one of the venues that is cashless?
Yeah.
So before we went, he and I went and had breakfast that morning, and then we just went across the street, and I had him run inside and grab a water and a Gatorade. And I said, you need to start drinking these things before you go down because it's so hot out here. You need to go ahead and start hydrating. But really, I just want you to go inside, grab a water and a Gatorade, swipe your green light card, and then obviously throw it in your pocket and take it down there to the racetrack with you. Because if you find anything that you want to purchase, come across, T-shirt, anything like that, that it works. Mm-hmm. I know that it works up here.
Right.
But just in case, let's go ahead and establish the fact that you've made a purchase today, even though you'll be 100 miles south of here.
Right.
And I just thought that it was great to know that he has his card that he's got in his pocket. If there's anything that he needs for the rest of the day, he's got the access to be able to purchase it.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about handing him cash.
Yep.
And not coming home with the change, losing it. So
yeah, it's a great tool.
It really is.
If you don't know much about Greenlight, definitely look that app up because it is very cool. There's even other things on there. There's tracking abilities, crash protection if you have older kids. I mean, there's so much. It's a wonderful app, a wonderful tool.
So good.
So I guess to kind of like rein this in a little bit, there's mention of, cash and credit and building credit and, different money buckets. The thing is, start where you are and just have the conversation. To me, it is just about, there's very basic things that you can start with and start talking to your kids about money and start teaching them about money, even if you yourself aren't great with money, because you can learn alongside them. What a wonderful thing to, maybe look at some bills and say, you know what? This is where we're at. I need to take care of this. This is something you want to avoid. I didn't understand this when I opened this account, or it's okay. We just want to start them in a good place and let them understand what, there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of things to learn about money, but it's a wonderful thing, and we can be a huge blessing to others with it if we treat it right. And we can be a big blessing to ourselves too.
Yeah, because like you said, it's not evil. Money can actually be a tool. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when used correctly, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And stewardship starts in the small stuff. And one of the things that I think we should be, very intentional with our kids is teaching them how to be content with where we're at.
Yeah.
Because we live in an instant gratification world. We live in a world where if we break something, we can just hop on Amazon, buy it again. It'll be here in a day or two. And, it's one of those principles that's easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure.
And just to reference my notes, teaching our kids to be content in a world that constantly says more is a mission in and of itself. And it is. Mm-hmm. And there are just so many things that I think we have to contend with that make it that way. Because again, I referenced using Apple Pay for things, which is the greatest thing in the world when you say, yesterday, leave the house here and go down and take your kiddos to the dentist and you forget your wallet.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness for being able to utilize Apple Pay to check out at the dentist and get some gas while we were out.
Yep.
But it's also the easiest thing to be scrolling on your phone, see something that you love, and knowing that with 2 clicks on your side of your phone, it can be en route.
Yeah.
And so those are challenges. But specifically with the being content, I want to read a page out of, do you have a copy of 31 Prayers for Your Son? Mm-mm. Oh, it's so good. So good. This is day 9, and it is on the topic of contentment.
Okay.
And I thought that this went very well with our topic today.
Awesome.
And it's, Dear Lord, no matter what circumstances my son faces in his lifetime, I pray that he learns how to remain content, whether with much or with little. I pray that my son gives you thanks for it all. May his heart be truly grateful for all that you provide. May he have an appreciation for the gift of life that satisfies him completely. May he understand that what you do provide is a gift. I pray that my son never grumbles or complains because of his circumstances. I also pray that his circumstances are not a catalyst for his attitude to shift toward the negative. May my son know how to exercise self-control and respond in difficult times with steadfastness. I pray that he would have a right perspective, your perspective. Give him eyes to see the world as you see it. May his heart remain humble. I pray that he never entertains the thought that you owe him what his heart desires. I pray he would lay his desires at the foot of your throne and accept what you have for him with true appreciation. I pray that his contentment would be a light in this dark world. I pray others would recognize his contentment and inquire about it so that my son can give them an answer that points their hearts towards you. I pray I also am a content person, one who responds to circumstances with perseverance and trust in you. Thank you for all of your wonderful gifts that you do provide each and every single day. Thank you for your goodness. In Jesus' name, amen.
Love it.
And I just think that touches on so much of what we've already said. And, contentment is challenging.
I think this might be a whole nother show topic, because there's some things there. How do we feel content if we feel like we're called for something big?
Right.
How do we feel content if we have a mission or a vision that calls for more? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like we could really dig into that, because I think that goes along with building a vision, looking into what do you want your life to look like and how, and then also doing that for our kids. What do you really want to get out of life? What do you want to experience? Where do you want to go? How much money will that take?
Yeah.
Who do you want to help? Is it something, you really can look into things like that and decide this might cost this amount of money, or who do you want to take care of? How much might that cost?
Right.
And really kind of, once you hit that point, understanding this is my contentment point, because it is so easy to, add another vehicle, add another house, add another trip or whatever. And that's okay. But it's like, okay, this is our line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we could really dig into that in another episode.
I think so.
All right.
And I think I think that we can, and I think that we should.
Yes. Agreed. All right. I know we have gone quite a long time, so we can try to wrap this up. When you're talking about kids and money, the whole idea is to really try to take the root of the evil out of the equation. Money can be a really wonderful tool and a catalyst for big, wonderful things if it's treated well and it's managed correctly and it's understood where it comes from and who provides it.
Yep.
And I think that's, really the baseline for what we want to teach. And as a mom, you can learn right alongside of your kids. You can teach your kids. You can start a business with your kids. You can take the guilt factor out of it, because if you are learning alongside of them, what an amazing experience. If you're teaching them, what a great thing to do. There shouldn't be a guilt factor there. It's just where we're at. And then now we go from there and we teach our kids something great.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Do you know that this show is brought to you by the most wonderful production company, Stay Stoked Creative Co. One day we're going to get producer Daniel on. We're going to get him on, and he's going to be on a mic, and he's going to be on the camera, and we're going to love it, and we're going to talk to him. But until then, you can check him out below in the show notes at staystokedcreativeco.com. Right? Yes, .com, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the one.
I don't know why that felt weird. And you can also find out more about kids, money, and building that healthy, wealthy financial foundation, easy for me to say, at wealthykidsacademy.beehive.com. That will be in the show notes as well. You ready to finish this one up?
Let's land the plane.
All right, let's do it. Please, please, please follow us on social. And if you have any feedback, we're going to be asking some questions. How do you deal with things? We'd love some feedback on some questions we're going to be putting up on social media to kind of guide our future episodes. So if you can, please respond, give us a thumbs up and follow along.
Yep, we would appreciate it.
All right, this is conclusion of episode 14?
15. Number 15.
Moms on a Mission. First one filmed.
That's right.
In the books.
We appreciate you following along.
See ya.
Be blessed.